Hello, party people out there in Radio Land. Welcome to this week's transmission. And today we are talking about regret. Regret. Right? The origin of regret, to be specific. So, regret doesn't really exist, right? If you remember from a podcast many moons ago, I talked about mistakes and how they don't really exist, right? There's no such thing as a mistake in this life. Okay, so you already know that. Regret. What is regret really? Regret is like having ill feelings about something that you've done or an action that you've taken or an action that you did not take, right? I think that's pretty much how you would sum it up. This ain't Webster, this ain't Merriam. Like, nah, so that's my own, that's me, right? That's my definition. So it's interesting. It's interesting how much we use the word regret and how much people feel regret, right? How relevant regret is in our lives, even in 2017, right? It's pretty crazy to think about. We have the world at our fingertips, and yet there is still a lot of people with a lot of regrets. Now, interestingly enough, hospice nurses, they did a huge study of hospice nurses. And they interviewed them and they asked them what was the number one thing that, people who are making their transition, right, dying people, talk about. And they said regret, right? They talk a lot about their regrets. Of course, they talk about family and the good things, but as the human mind likes to deviate toward the I want to say negative, grotesque, unwanted side a lot, unless it's checked. They talked a lot about regret, right? You look back, and that seemed to be the most salient memory that they had. That's what stood out. And their number one regret, hands down, was not following their dreams and not doing what they wanted to do with their lives. Number one, like unequivocally. So I think that's interesting to think about. Now, where does regret come from, right? Especially when we have free will, right? For the most part, you got free will. You can do whatever you want to do. Nobody's holding you back, literally, right? You're not chained. Even if you hate your job, you're not chained to that desk, right? Even if you hate whatever, your car, whatever, like you could just abandon it on the side of the road, take a bus, I don't know, walk into the sunset. But for the most part, nothing is restricting you in a physical sense, right? All of our restrictions are mental, right? They originate in our minds. And they just manifest, right, in the physical, like everything else. So if you can choose at any moment, even right now, even right this second, to do exactly what you want, you could pause this and go, like, jump in the pool or something like that, go hop on a flight. Like, you could. What's stopping you? Why do so many people have regret? Why do so many people wrestle with regret? So I think my theory about regret is that it stems from a misalignment with your soul's desires. So, following and listening to your ego, 90 to 100% of the time, that's a guaranteed way of causing situations that will lead you to regret, right? If you're only listening to your left brain, if you're not listening to your heart, if you're only listening to logic, quote unquote, which doesn't exist, right? We talked about that before too. Or you're only listening to what other people are telling you, then you are living an ego-driven life and you are setting yourself up for regret. Like, undoubtedly, you can guarantee that you will have some regrets. If you're only letting your mind or your brain tell you what to do and when to do it, right? Here's why. You can only regret something if you didn't align with it in the first place. Let me repeat that. You can only regret something if you did not align with it in the first place, right? So, for example, saying, I should have done this, or I knew I should have, right? And how many times do we do that when we regret something? We say, I knew it. Rarely do you hear people be like blindsided, like, well, dang, who saw that coming? Usually it's like, I knew it. Like, I knew I should have made a left, right? I knew I should have brought an umbrella. I knew it. Like, something told me. And that's why we attach so much anger and frustration, or really associate it with regret, because usually we knew it. Right? If you really didn't know, babies or little kids, they don't get mad with their decisions. Even if they touch a hot stove, it hurts, but then it's a learning experience. And you look at their faces, it's innocent. They didn't know. I didn't know this was going to happen, so I had nothing to be mad about, right? But as adults, right, we are angry with ourselves about it. Why is that? Where's that anger coming from if you genuinely didn't know? It's because on some level you did know, and you know that you knew, and you knew that you know, right? You knew it, and that's why you're so angry about, the situation, because you're like, I knew it, right? But I did not listen, right? So if you say, I knew that I should have, it means that you knew in advance what action that you wanted to take, yet you failed to follow through with your own urges. Right? You knew on some level, maybe you weren't able to quantify it, right? Maybe it was a right brain thing, maybe it was intuitive things, maybe it was a heart-driven decision, but you knew it. And because you weren't able to reconcile it with your left brain, right, you did not take that action, right? You failed to take action. And then you end up with regret because you knew it, even though you could not point to where the information was coming from. Now, all of this, right, leads to what? Expectations. So if you start a decision, right? So you say, well, if I didn't align with it, how, would I know that I'm not in alignment with it in the first place? Well, you feel your urges, right? You can gauge your emotions after having done or not done the thing, and then seeing how you feel about it, right? Because expectations, that's all it comes down to. If you have no expectations for something, if you like, I'm just going to do it. So if I say, I'm going to jump into this pool, I just want to do that. That's what I want to do. Or I'm going to eat this, this burger that's been in the refrigerator for a couple weeks. And, like, I align with that 100%. That means I have no expectations of that. I've completely let go. I just want to do that. I just want to see how this burger will taste. I just want to see what's going to happen if I jump into this pool with my clothes on, right? So I can only have regret as long as I align with that decision, with that action in and of itself in that moment. I'm good. It doesn't matter what the outcome is, right? Good or bad. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to regret having done it because I aligned with it. Now, if I get sick from eating this burger or something, and I did not align with it, then what's going to happen? I'm going to be mad. I'm going to say, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have done that. Oh, there you go. But if I get sick and I was in alignment with doing it, I thought it would be a hilarious experience, then, and I was just really hungry, or I was really, it was a science experiment, then guess what? I'm going to be like, whatever, charge it to the game. It's just a learning experience, right? Just like a small child would, right? So now I know. Don't ever do that again, right? Because that's all life is anyway. I didn't make a mistake. I lived and I learned, don't do that no more. So I'm still not mad, even though the outcome wasn't favorable, quote unquote. Well, can you say that? It was a learning experience. So can you say that it was unfavorable, right? We've already had that philosophical discussion in the No Mistakes podcast, right? So it all comes down to expectations, which you need to let go of. If you're in alignment with something, you got to let go of expectations of how it's supposed to look after you follow through with it, right? Because things often do not look how you want them to look, right? And that's where the anger and the regret comes from. So what's the solution to all of this? Well, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself, right? Listen to your urges, your passions, your instincts, your intuition, your heart, your soul, your essence, right? Only by doing so can you completely align with your deepest desires and their potential outcomes, right? All of their potential outcomes, right? Good or bad or negative or positive, however you want to frame that, right? That's the only way that you can do it. I've been in situations that ended less than optimally and that I did not regret, right? Because I completely aligned with the action. right? And thus I was able to embrace the consequences, good or bad. The consequences didn't matter, right? Well, I mean, I don't even know if I could tell you the consequences of some of the stuff because I just was so aligned with the action of it in and of itself. It's like, oh, wait, oh yeah, that didn't pan out as I thought. But it's funny now because I still was like, well, I just remember really wanting to do that, right? And also in situations that ended otherwise, right? But none of it matters. None of it matters, right? Because I was in alignment. And that's all you need to do. That's all I'm telling you to do this week is just get in alignment with whatever you want to do. You want to buy something, you don't. You want to go somewhere, you don't. Just as long as you align with it, it'll work out. You've already done. It's done. Like you'll enjoy it, and that's that. And you won't have any regrets. And the sun will shine, and the moon will smile at you, and butterflies will come and sit on your shoulder. All right, that's all I got. Thank you for listening. Have a great week. Love, live, life, laughter. Bye.